Hello, welcome to Physics 1403 Stars and Galaxies for Fall 2020. My name is Ray Binge. I'll be teaching the class. I have sent everybody a copy of the syllabus, so you should have read that and have an idea what's going on. Let me just touch base just a little bit here, introductory-wise, to sort of explain a couple things. The textbook is Universe, 11th edition. We are basically doing the second half of the book. Physics 1404, which is the solar system, does the first half of the book. Now, I do not assume you've already had the other class, so if you look at the syllabus, you notice that while most of the chapters we cover are in the second half of the book, there are a few chapters, first half of the book, to make sure we have that down. So I am going to be doing that. The other thing that we'll be using in some of our activities here is the night sky planisphere. I sometimes just call it a star wheel, though the technical term is planisphere, and I'll be explaining more about how to use that when we get around to using it in the labs. But that is something you'll be using. You'll also need to have a calculator. Doesn't have to be a super fancy calculator. It needs to be a scientific calculator to get the right buttons on there. So it's got to have a logarithm button, and the thing raises things to a power and scientific notation and so forth. It doesn't have to be super elaborate, so it doesn't have to be one of these really, really expensive calculators. You're also going to need a ruler and a protractor. And they're cheap. You can buy them at Dollar General. Or order them online. They magically appear in the mailbox. So those will be a couple of things you'll be needing here as well. For the labs, you're going to be going outside and looking at a few things naked eye, and so for that, it's helpful to have a flashlight. And I'll talk more about flashlights here coming up, these are all things you need to be thinking about. But anyway, the course here, I think it's a fun class. We cover a lot of material. We cover the universe. Okay, so that's a lot of stuff. And so what you need to be doing, though, is stay on top of things. There's a lot of things that we're doing. So rather than having one extensive long lab each week, we have a couple like small labs a week. So those are activities that you can be doing. I'll be posting lectures here online. So I'll have links posted here to you so that you can watch them when you feel like it. Each week I'll have one or two live sessions in which I will be available to do questions and answers. You don't have to come to them if you don't want to. I record them in case you can't. I don't know when people are available, so I don't know what times really to schedule these things. And with there's be no times in the class, some people are available in the afternoon, some morning, some evening. Some people work at different times, or they have other obligations. So I can't really say when's the best time. So I'll try to schedule them when I can. So that's another thing. They'll be there, and that'll give you a chance to interact and ask questions. Because sometimes the labs you sometimes have questions with. Yeah, I don't understand how to do this, or I don't know how to do this calculation, or I don't understand what this means. All you gotta do is ask a question, and I can explain it. And go, oh, okay, it's not that hard. So hopefully that's going to be the deal. Exams, we got to have tests. There'll be 3 tests in the final. The final is going to count double. And so that's going to be coming up. It's listed in the syllabus as to when these things are going to be. So that's coming. Students always, if they haven't had a professor before, they want to know, well, what's the test like? And so to give you an idea of the kinds of questions I ask, the sort of depth of the questions I typically ask, what I have done is I have put old exams from previous semesters online for you. And so on the Blackboard site, my old exams are there. I don't have the answers, but I'm not going to ask the exact same questions, obviously. But the idea is you don't just memorize question and answer because it's not going to be the same, but if you look at it and you see a question and say, oh, do I know how to answer that? Okay, let me study that area in case a related question comes up. And so that's how you would study for this. Students will often actually not just study before the exam, because that's a poor strategy for learning a subject like this. You study as you go. And so after each chapter or so, or after each lecture, they'll go back and look at the old exams. Oh, I know how to answer that one and this one and that one and so forth. And so now I understand that, and so forth. So that's kind of the idea. Read the textbook. Study the exams, rather not the exams, but read the textbook, study the lectures, go back, look at them again. You can rewind them if you miss something. Okay, so that's a good strategy. The lectures very much closely cover the material that's going to be on the exam. Because obviously the stuff I talk about, stuff I think is important. Now the book's also going to be covering stuff, so it sometimes covers a little more in depth than I do. Sometimes I cover a little more in depth than the book does. So you need to really study both. The other thing here is that I'm going to give you the option here of writing a term paper. So the way this works is the term paper is going to count the same as a test, but I'm going to draw the lowest of the lowest test, or the term paper, or the final counts twice, so one of those grades. Okay, and so now if you don't do the term paper, you get a 0 on it. I drop the 0. You don't lose anything. So that's why I say this is kind of optional. If you do the term paper, if it is higher than your lowest test grade, then the lowest test grade doesn't count, and the term paper does in its place. So again, this is a nice option. Term paper is not something that you're going to be able to write in just a few days. This is a term paper. The term is the semester. This is like a semester paper. So it's due a little bit before Thanksgiving, so you have until then to write it. Don't just write about something. You need to clear the topic with me. You want to go more in depth than we do in class. So you cannot pick a topic that we cover extensively in class. You need to pick a subtopic or a smaller portion of it. So that's something to think about. We'll talk more about this later. Some students, do the term paper. Some don't. If you're good at taking tests, you might not want to worry about the term paper. If you're better at writing, do the term paper. The other thing is there's a handful of short essays we're doing over the course of the semester as well, in which I want you to read something in the news that relates to astronomy. There was actually some things in the news just this past week that pertain to astronomy. And so what you do is you read that and then write a 1 or 2 page summary of that and then upload it to Blackboard for a few extra points. I also figure anytime you're doing something relating to astronomy, you probably learned something. And so if you happen to be bored and surfing, through channels on TV at 2 or 3 in the morning, and you find a documentary of some sort about astronomy, then watch that and write a summary of it and turn it in. You watch a TED Talk about astronomy where an astronomer is talking. Some observatories are actually doing live viewing nights, or meet the astronomer who gives a presentation or something. Watch one of those, write a short summary and turn it in. If you've got binoculars or telescope at home, there's activities you can do there. You can talk with me about what to do, but you can actually upload those, get extra credit points. The labs, we're going to have some worksheet-based labs, some semester-long based labs, and so forth. They're about 15 points apiece. There's a computer program you're going to download and install called Stellarium. That's going to be about 10 points apiece for those kind of labs. So you've got a variety of different things here that can be doing things. The short papers, term paper, tests, extra credit labs, extra credit activities, all of that stuff just adds. The other thing I'm going to have you do is discussions to keep you engaged in the class and to make sure that you're staying on top of things and to make you think more about it as you go, which is a good learning strategy. I'm going to have discussions in which you're going to be looking at the book, looking at the lectures, and then asking questions pertinent to what we're talking about, or making observations about it, and then commenting and responding to other people. So someone might ask a question saying, hey, does anybody know of a constellation about, something, I mean, sort of, we talk about constellations, and I talk about constellation stories, and someone, does anyone know about any Native American constellation stories? So that'll be a question you would ask. Someone else has to answer, and so they might have to Google this and say, are there any Native American? Yeah, actually there are, and so here's a link to where you can find some about that. Likewise with galaxies, we're talking about galaxies, and someone might ask, does anyone know what the biggest galaxy there is? You might Google that, respond to it. So the discussions involve multiple parts. You have to ask a question or make a comment, and you have to answer someone else's questions, which means you have to do a little research. You got to think about it. Now you get points for doing all that. Okay. Now what that means is, at the end of the semester, all I do to find your grade is I add up the points. That's it. I just add. It's not out of so many. It's just I add up points. Okay. So if you have, by the end of the semester, 420 points, you get a D. If you have 500 points or more, you get a C. If you get 575 points or more, you get a B. If you get more than 650 points, you get an A. All I do is add. So that means if by Thanksgiving you have 651 points, you have an A. So if you get a 0 on the final, I add 0 to 651, it's still 651, you still have an A. And so if you're happy with a C and you get 500 and something points, then you can not take the final and get a B. Okay, I mean, it'd be stupid. Okay, if you're just happy with a C, but I mean, if you are and you don't want a B, then you don't have to take the final. But if you take the final and you really do terrible on it, I don't subtract points. I just add not very many points, so it doesn't hurt you. So that's something to think about. Is and again, I've had people here, that they have 648 points, so 2 points shy of an A, and so they take the final, and they know that they only have to answer 2 questions out of 100 right to get an A, and so they don't even bother studying for the final because they're pretty sure they're going to get at least 2 questions, and so again, that's all I do is I add, okay, to get the grades. Now, that's true for most of y'all. There are a couple of y'all that are in the early college, high school, and they want a percentage. And so you can figure out the percentage there and just keep piling on points. And last couple of years, I've had students that actually get over 100% by piling on the points here. And even though they had an A, they took the final anyway, got more points. And so if that's your goal, to get even more points, go for it. So that's how I grade things. People always want to know, that's it. It's not so many points out of something. It is total points accumulated. All I do is add. Now, having said that, the only time that doesn't work that way is if you cheat. Okay, if you cheat or plagiarize the term paper, then instead of dropping the lowest grade, I drop the highest grade. And whatever grade you get in the course, I drop you 1 letter grade, and you get reported to the administration as someone committed academic dishonesty. Okay, so you don't want to cheat. Okay, so you can do a terrible paper, and all it does is add 10 points. Whoop-de-doo. It added. Okay, so I don't subtract, so it doesn't hurt your grade by doing poorly. It just doesn't help it as much. So think about that. Don't cheat. Okay, be honest with doing all this, and you're actually going to likely do a whole lot better than you think you are. Okay, on the syllabus, I've got dates of various things. I'm going to try to keep relatively close to that. I'm going to be posting labs, be posting these other things online. As we go, I'll be posting more stuff. So with that, I'll let you, I guess, get started.